Hello everybody and welcome back. It is I, Dave Pumphouse, with a little new series that I have wanted to start for a little while now, and I found myself with a spare few hours over lunchtime on this lovely Tuesday afternoon. So we're here with The Collapse, a political simulator in a post-Soviet era fictional state of Europe somewhere. I'm sure it will explain more as we go along, but yeah, I picked this up a few weeks ago and I've been meaning to play it, and to be honest with you, I wanted to play it with Tara, but we're still too busy trying to finish Suzerain, which I would urge everyone to go watch. It's a great fun, and hell, who knows, maybe we'll even invite him along the way to help play with us. But yeah, let's just start. Maybe even go to settings first. Sound, music is at 10. That's fine. Maybe we could put that down to maybe 60. I don't think it's changed much. But yeah, new game. Let's do it. And then you can even have mods. But let's just get on with a nice little sandbox start and make sure that we're actually streaming. There we go. Appears that we are, so here we are. Right, so yeah, we got okay, after the old leaders fled the country, it was you who formed the provisional government. The parliament was equally divided between all parties. The elections are coming. It's missing a T. Don't lose your chance. So that's the sandbox mode. What do we got? Collapse, mystical. I mean, what if we do like standard? Eastern European Republic had just gained its independence, but its leader had already fled when the impoverished people and banned parties rose in the revolt. But your party is too weak to fight. Try to survive. Okay. What about collapse? The economy of the Republic is absolutely destroyed, and the old leader fled with the rest of the budget. Try to lift the Republic from its knees, or it will be we who will stand on them. What? Try to lift the Republic from its knees, or it will be we who stand on them. Okay, fair enough. Achievements are only available in this mode. Attention, the scenario should not be any lighter than the standard one. I guess we could just go, what, last hero? I mean, if that's saying we can only go in this mode, which is on, okay. And I guess we just have to pick what party we want. Got the Blue Guard. No, let's start with the Conservatives then. Conservatives, standard. And we're, okay. Conservative Party seeks to build a state with a controlled market economy and special nation development path. The party is recommended for newcomers for the first run. Okay. What's this one? Liberals. Liberal Party aims to adopt the best of civilized American society, if you can call American society a society at all. Communist Party, taking into account the mistakes of the Soviet past, still stands on the position of Marxist Leninism and wants to restore socialism in new conditions. This party is recommended for newcomers on the first run. Okay. Social Democratic Party seeks to build a reformed capitalism where everyone will live happily in solidarity. It's the Socialists. Okay, we've got Social Democracy and the Socialists. Socialist Party follows the example of Sweden and wants to transfer the Swedish model to Republican soil. What's this one? People's Nation. National People's Party takes the best from nationalism and socialism, proclaiming the third way and republic for Republicans, not for capital. And then this must be the Fascist Party. No, that's the Blue Guard. The Blue Guard is a national patriotic political organisation. Its goal is to build a strong corporatic state. Alright, well, you know what? We could just go for bog standard conservatives, I suppose. It's a bit boring, but it's fairly run of the mill. More detail, what do we got? CRP was formed from dissidents and intellectuals who had to navigate attitude to Soviet domestic politics. Boris Shabansky took an active part in creation of the party. In the 1991 elections, the CRP easily overtakes the candidate from the CPR and wins with a result of 89%. Constitutional majority gives the party unlimited power and begins to carry out market reforms. However, they are frankly unsuccessful. The flimsy planning system finally broke down and the new market system was not built, which led to the impoverishment of the population. Mass unemployment, a huge shortage of goods, and a strong drop in the level of life. Okay. All this spurs popular discontent and fear in the people, its leaders after the August Putsch. Okay, prohibits all the rest. Okay, this is very odd sentencing structure, but this only adds fuel to the fire. The people come. There's no full stops. Oh, there's one. The people come out to protest, but they manage to be suppressed by the police and the army. People calm down. Okay, yada yada yada. Two main wings emerged: the CRP, the nationalists, supporters of the sovereign republic, as well as the post-Soviet adherents of the idea of integrating post-Soviet countries into the Commonwealth. Special modifiers. Okay. Privatization brings more 50% what? As long as the former leaders of the Republic have not been put on trial or imprisoned, corruption in all controlled regions and ministries will certainly grow. Okay, so we have to lock up former leaders. Rethinking the past. Corruption in controlled regions is falling. Okay. Traditional values, of course. People's hatred. The stroke of the pen of the former president destroyed the USSR, and the people's anger will long remember this crime of the party. The threshold of the support of the lower class will freeze at 50%, while the upper class considers the CRP the saviours of the nation. Import substitution. Nationalists. Decline in attractiveness for foreign investment, favourable for smaller businesses, but an increase in efficiency and money of the Ministry of Infrastructure, the Ministry of Industry and the Ministry of Agriculture. Well, okay, that's good. Struggle with the West, pro-Soviet, the fall of separatism and aggressiveness of national minorities in the South and East, the growth of dependence and loyalty to the PDR, the fall of the relations with the US and the EU, unique actions, trade unions. Okay, we can bribe union leaders. Interesting. The church. Bribe leaders of the church. Symbols. State symbols are inviolable. Attacks on the flag, anthem, coat of arms and territorial integrity of the Republic are illegal. Reduces the aggressiveness of upper class in controlled regions, increases in uncontrolled. Okay. So what, that's kind of warning us against what, organised crime? Upper class organised crime, is it? Like mafia ran stuff? I don't know. Build the church to expand influence. Okay, and gossip. Spread rumours in the region about the upcoming nationalisation. It will anger the upper class. Values. Constitutional Commission. Introduce the main thesis of our party programme. Okay. Okay, we can go into lots of different detail here about different regions of the country. And alliances. We've got cartels. Alright, this is very in-depth. And research progress. As well as the party's money. Okay, well, we can possibly come back to all of this, but maybe we just get started at it, I guess. Go back. How do we go back? Escape? Right, okay. So we're going to go Conservatives, Standard, Last Hero on, and start. Okay, let's have a look. 1951. New member of society. On this sunny day, you first saw this world full of surprises. You were born into a family of. Aha, okay. So we get to choose our little character and what he's been through again. It's very reminiscent of Suzerain. I quite like. This is good. Member of the Capital's District Party Committee. Simple Republican miner. Collective farmers. You know what? I'm going to say we're farm owners. Come from a line of that. Okay. Life was not easy. However, it was interesting. You were not pampered by the city's comforts. From childhood, your parents taught you to do hard country work. In the summer, they were at work until late, and household chores fell on your shoulders, as well as caring for your younger brothers and sisters. Life is a continuous series of adventures. Let it be so. Insider. Let's go for the first one. You are a boy. A week later, a woman in labour is discharged from the maternity ward with you. All relatives and friends on that day shared the happiness of your parents. Your father first took you in his arms and said, "Look, dear, he is just like his dad." Okay. Let it be so. We can't change that bus, but I guess plus 10 to the COG and plus minus to the RFU. Okay, first one again. I don't think it changes much. 1969, at the crossroads. At school, you were one of the most successful students, constantly participating in various Olympiads in the humanities and often winning various prizes. Teachers admired your talent and prophesied a great future. You graduated from high school with a gold medal, and you are now ready to move on to the next stage of your life. And I choose... what do I choose? Economics at the Metropolitan State University, higher party school under the Central Committee, or I serve the Soviet Union. Well, I think I'm just going to go for the faculty of the Metropolitan State University, as one would. Thanks to the Soviet education system and your personal efforts, you easily entered the most prestigious Soviet university. You diligently study economics and dig deep into science. The first course flew by instantly. New acquaintances, studies, student life. It was a great time. The economy must be economical. Okay, plus 10 to the NAFC. Okay, cool. Let's go. You also studied hard at the university, and your work did not go unnoticed. Multiple medals and prizes to all union competitions confirm this. In your third year, you made good friends with your classmate, Sergei Vinogradov, who until then had always remained in the shadows. Sergei, by origin, was the son of a director of one of the large Republican enterprises known throughout the Union. Once, when you were once again preparing together for a final exam in the capital, by Marx, Das Kapital, okay, by Marx, Sergei mentioned that inauthentic socialism was built in the Soviet Union. He told you about a secret group of Marxist-Leninists who began distributing leaflets against the CPSU throughout the city. Your friend invited you to join the underground movement, but he said that this case was very dangerous. You refused politely. Not my cup of tea. You refused to join the circle. A couple of days later, you learned from Sergei that all the members of the organization were arrested by the militia. Soon everyone except the leader of the organization was released, but they were expelled from the university and the Komsomol. Now, they will have to go to college. Okay, we'll get +8 to party unity. That's not bad. 1973. Oh, okay. Well, you know, if this is going to be this for the next 45 minutes to an hour, I don't mind. Just choosing a life. We'll see how we get on. The days followed each other. As years passed, and suddenly the last course came. So you also continued to study well and often spent your free time with Sergei. Once in the library, Sergei accidentally met his compatriot Nina and introduced you to her. You, as a person not very fond of new acquaintances, grudgingly shook her hand, but then saw her eyes. Something inside you changed dramatically. A lump in your throat prevented you from uttering and squeezing out even one word. You did not notice how that evening passed. She said that she had come from the Eastern Republic to enter the same university. She also left you her address and invited you to come over for a cup of tea sometime. You were in seventh heaven. You were impressed by her beauty, her mind, her friendliness. I mean, what do we pick here? We could go for her mind, but I mean, she was friendly. Let's go for friendly. If she invites us over for a cup of tea, let's go for friendliness. Boom. Your life will no longer be the same. You increasingly began to spend time together, which made Sergei very sad. With whom you, on the contrary, began to see less and less often. That's the way of life. My wife is the idol of the public. Okay, cool. Nevertheless, student life went on as before. On one completely ordinary day, the rector's staff invited the famous Chilean communist Manuel Lacunos. I've not heard of Manuel Lacunos. I feel like I probably should have. To give a lecture. As you know, quite recently a coup d'etat took place in Chile, as a result of which the socialist government of Salvador Allende was overthrown and the military junta, headed by Augusto Pinochet, came to power. Canos, known for his outstanding oratory skills, spoke about the brutality of the established Chilean regime, mass executions, repression against the communists and their sympathizers, growing social stratification, poverty and misery. This is how he described his once prosperous homeland after the military uprising. What do you do? I mean, we can be sympathetic to the fact that mass executions and repression against people. I mean, that's not the greatest. I can be sympathetic to a degree. You reacted with sympathy to the hardships of the Chilean people, who are now living a very hard life under the yoke of the fascist government of Pinochet. At lunch, you shared your opinion with Sergei, but he only said that this is senseless propaganda, but it is better to keep quiet about such things if you don't want to get kicked out of the university like those Marxist-Leninists. So we get plus 15 to the Russian party. Okay. You graduated from the University of Economics with your talent. And your talent did not go unnoticed. You were invited to work at the State Planning Committee of the Republican SSR, where you took a position of Chief Specialist of the department. You very quickly became friends with the head of the organization. To some extent, he became your mentor and helped you get used to a new place. However, finding him in the workplace was very problematic, since he was very often went to the places to resolve issues. When he was absent, his duties often loaded you with work that in fact you should not do. Because of this, you very often left work closer to midnight. I know how that feels, buddy. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? It's very funny because, you know, in my real life work, I can relate. But we'll continue to work. We're a workhorse. This lasted for several weeks, but one day the director's secretary came to you and kindly invited you along with the company to go to a bar and have a couple of glasses. He apologized and said that they had a tradition of trust checking new employees. You had a great time and eventually began fully integrated into the team. Soon you got a promotion. Plus 10 to party money. Life is a continuous series of adventures. You know what I should really do? I should really grab myself a quick cup of tea. Or at least just a drink of water or something, because all this reading is straining my voice already. And we're back. Okay. And now, the moment has come. You've already met for several years and have become truly inseparable. You just need to gain strength and tell her this. Marry me. Does she have a name? I don't know. And she agreed. The wedding was pompous. Many guests and relatives came, but Sergei, whom you had not seen for a year, has completely disappeared somewhere, and he didn't even congratulate you in return, despite the fact that the invitation was sent. According to your position, you received a spacious 2-room apartment and celebrated a housewarming. This is how your happy life together began. Boom. Okay. For the past 3 years you have worked hard in your position, and your work has not been wasted. On the recommendation of the Director of the State Planning Commission, you got a job at the Ministry of Finance of the Republic, becoming the Deputy Minister of Economy. Wow, just like that. 3 years married, or 3 years in the job, married, and now I'm Deputy Minister. If only life was so simple. Your family was offered a free car. However, you have been using your father's Ziguli for a long time, which was given to him in honour of the 30th anniversary of the victory. As a veteran pilot of the Great Patriotic War who received a Hero of the Soviet Union medal, I guess, commendation, you, realising you don't need a car, still accepted the offer. As an honest communist, refused as those who I need it more. Well, okay, your family was offered a free car, however you have been using your father's. We could always give it back to our dads. I mean, I'll accept the offer. I mean, if it's a newer car, why wouldn't you? Boom. You accepted the offer, and now you've a brand new Volga, the dream of millions of Soviet citizens. Your family is prosperous and does not know the problem of the shortage of luxury goods, which, by the beginning of the 1980s, has become very aggravated. +10 to party money, and -5 to all lower in the country. Right, okay. The 22nd Olympic Games will start soon. As you know, the Republic will host the preliminary games and quarterfinals of the football tournament. So Moscow demands the insurance of the highest food supply to the capital in order to present the USSR as a socialist paradise of abundance. This task was assigned to your department of the State Planning Commission. Perhaps if everything goes off without a hitch, you can count on a raise. And I decide to draw all goods from specialty stores. Well, that doesn't sound very good. What about allocate more funds for overtime? Do. By the decree of the State Planning Committee signed by you, a significant part of the budget funds was directed to material and stimulating support for enterprise. At many light industry enterprises, such measures led to a tangible jump in the production of consumer goods, but the cost of wages for workers who work the night shifts cost us a pretty penny. In this regard, a huge number of anecdotes about night shifts, like under the Tsar, appeared among the people, and the party members did not like this. Nevertheless, the Olympics went off with a bang. The USSR took first place in the medal standings. This, of course, isn't surprising given that the Western countries successfully boycotted the competition, and the Soviet leadership noticed your efforts and awarded you the Order of Lenin. Okay. Go. Today is a very lucky day. You had a set of twins, a boy and a girl. Your joy knew no bounds. However, lately you have given yourself completely to work and have spent little time with your family. Now it's time to correct this misunderstanding. Career above all else. Well, I don't know, let's try and find a balance. You, as a real family person, have decided to give your children a real and happy childhood and have devoted your life to raising children. You named your daughter, who looks like you, Nadezhda, and named your son Stefan to honor your grandfather, a hero of the Civil War. However, life has become more similar and boring. Every day has become similar to the previous one. You have become more absent-minded. -10 to party unity, but +15 to family and relatives. And +2 to the middle class. Okay. Life was relatively peaceful. Your family lived in prosperity, not knowing the problems of the growing deficit and need for anything. But one day, a black government-owned Volga stopped at your place of work. Obviously, a big guy from the regional committee, but why? Several people hurried to the third floor of the building. You heard a loud clatter of shoes, obviously Czechoslovak ones, constantly approaching, and then a knock on your office door. You automatically walked to the door and opened it. Three men in coats and formal hats entered the room. Chief among them, on his left chest, shone a medal of the hero of the Socialist Labour and a badge 50 years in the CPSU. It was Nikolai Shmelevsky, the first secretary of the CPR, de facto leader of the entire republic. Well, comrade, help out your own party, he began. Moscow expects from us 3,000 tons of coal. We now have, God forbid, half of this. You are smart. A number here, a dozen there, and the required number will be found. You don't want to disappoint Leonid Ilyich, do you? He isn't well. In general, I hope for your conscientiousness, comrade. Oh yes. I heard that domestic video recorders began to be produced in Voronezh. I am an old man. Do not understand this, but you will need it. A useful thing in everyday life. If you try well, we will put you on special supplies. Do you agree? He asked you, what? What do you not? What? I refuse. You rejected Shmelevsky's offer. I'm a member of the CPSU, so I cannot go against my people, you said. Shmelevsky looked at you with displeasure, snorted, and quickly left the office along with the guards. -6 to corruption, +4 to all lowers, -3 to uppers, -5 to party unity, and -10 to the mafia. Okay? Lovely. New servant of the Kremlin. Several months have already passed since the death of Brezhnev. The old Yuri Andropov and the former head of the KGB became the new leader of the Soviet Union. Despite serious health problems, Yuri Vladimirovich enthusiastically began to cleanse all corrupt officials from the state apparatus and remove people disloyal to himself from the Central Committee, replacing them with younger and more promising party members. Various anti-corruption cases broke out throughout the Union, which also affected the Republic. Nikolai Shmelevsky, the first secretary of the CPR, who led the Republic since Khrushchev's times, has long been considered a symbol of corruption. The investigation of corruption abuses in the Republic received a new impetus, which is explained by Andropov's long tenure as chairman of the KGB of the USSR, and as a consequence by the fact that he has had information about the actual state of affairs in the Republic, as well as the hostile relations that have developed earlier between Andropov and Shmelevsky. The so-called miners' case thundered across the Republic. Realizing that this is a good way to declare yourself and show your loyalty to Moscow, you roll over on everyone involved to the machinations of the Republican mines. For your loyalty, you receive a new position, the first secretary of the Capital City Party Committee. Shmelevsky committed suicide a month after the incident. In your position, you are disliked for obvious ties with Moscow, but you maneuver between them. Boom. +2 to upper, +5 to the administration resources, +5 to the aggressiveness of the lower and middle. You skillfully tried to contain the tension between the local elites of the Kremlin, trying to save several potentially innocent party members from persecution, for which you earned the respect of the Republican Party members. Gennady Zubov, loyal to Andropov, became the new first secretary of the CPR. Okay. Let's go. 1984. A house concert. It just so happened that Yuri Vladimirovich died and Vladimirovich died, and recently a new anecdote was born in the country. Konstantin Ustinovich Chernenko, I've heard Chernenko somewhere, without regaining consciousness, took up his duties as General Secretary of the party. In the USSR, the so-called apartment concerts have long been widespread. A concert held in an ordinary apartment at home under Brezhnev, the attitude towards them was tolerant, but now, on the initiative of Chernenko, performing at such amateur concerts is equated to entrepreneurial activity that violates the monopoly of the USSR state concert. In this regard, Moscow demands to carry out demonstrative raids on apartment owners, and you... I'm just going to ignore it. You did not consider it necessary to fulfill Moscow's demand, for which you received the reputation of a renegade in the Kremlin. But what's the point in fighting these rock concerts after all? You can't catch everyone. 1985. After the sudden death of Konstantin Chernenko, who, 2 days before his death, while undergoing medical treatment supported by Viktor Grishin, suddenly appeared on the television screen during the elections of the Supreme Soviet RSFSR, and with difficulty uttered a few welcoming phrases. A young and ambitious newcomer from Stavropol, Mikhail Gorbachev, became the General Secretary of the CPSU Central Committee. All citizens of the Union associate their future and change of life for the better with his name, and you, Gorbachev, were waiting. You decided to not to make any hasty decisions and wait. In Moscow, meanwhile, the first party reshuffles began. Old party workers leave their places and make way for the young. +2 to upper, +7 to the separatism of the pro-Russian. Okay, 1986. And when does this game start? What, 1992? We've got a while yet. The other day, during a record short plenum of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Republic, which lasted only 28 minutes, Gennady Zhubov, an ethnic Republican and no longer a young leader of the CPR appointed by Andropov, was removed from his post as first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Republic. In his place was elected the first secretary of Astrakhan, Vasily Drozdov. Sent on the recommendation of the General Secretary of the CPSU Central Committee, Russian by nationality, the Republicans were hostile to the Varangian sent by Moscow. However, student rallies soon broke out in the capital. The demonstrations began with the first groups of the Republican youth came out demanding that Drozdov's appointment be cancelled. Rumours of a performance in the square instantly spread throughout the city. In the morning, crowds of young people led by active national patriots came out in front of the building of the Central Committee. The demonstrators' posters read, "We demand self-determination. Each nation has its own leader. Don't be 37. Put an end to the great power madness. Moscow demands an immediate end to the nationalism in the Republic. You, send militia in to break up the demonstration, make a speech and urge everyone to disperse, gave rallies the opportunity to grow, to intimidate Moscow. In 1986, I mean, we can maybe go down the middle road and ask them to disperse. Don't be 37. What chart is that? I'm going to have to look that up. What is that? Is that some kind of reference to something like 1937? I'm a bit naive. Google's no help. I have to look into that one. Make a speech and urge everyone to disperse. Let's do that. Okay. He gave a speech during the student demonstration and tried to educate the rebellious youth. However, this only led to further escalation of the protests. Military units were brought into the capital. The military attacked the protesters and began to clean up the city. Sapper shovels and batons were used. The protesters were beaten, sometimes very severely. An emergency regime was declared in the region. Moscow ordered to classify information about the rallies and not to display anything about them in the media, as well as to hold party meetings at enterprises and factories. Order was restored. +4 to medium, -3 to upper, okay. +10 to separatism of the pro-Western, okay. Children's party. Today you have a particularly good day. You have been invited to tomorrow's meeting of the Central Committee of the CPR, at which quite possibly the question of accepting you as a candidate for the Bureau of the Central Committee of the CPR will be raised. However, on the same day, the children's matinee will be held at the school for your children. You have already gone to the first grade, but what is more important to you, family or career? You have chosen the only correct path, and I mean, I'm going to attend the meeting. You made the only correct decision and went to the meeting of the Central Committee, as a result of which you became a candidate for membership of the Bureau of the Central Committee of the CPR. And it doesn't matter what it cost you, the main thing is career, right? Let's just keep going. 1988. A prodigal year. Yes, that's the year I was born. Today, your secretary brought you a folder in which a list of visitors you were supposed to receive today. Among them, you saw Sergei Vinogradov. You looked in surprise and you looked in surprise and wondered if it was him. The last time you saw Sergei more than 10 years ago, and after there was not a rumor about him. However, in the early 80s, through third parties, you heard that he managed to escape from the Soviet Union to the West, but nothing more. Nevertheless, the working day was coming to an end, but the most expected visitor never came. You have already started to getting ready to go home, and at that moment there was a knock on the door. A man with a moustache, wearing imported jeans and a short-sleeved shirt, walked through the door. It was Sergei. You did not immediately recognize him, since he has changed significantly during this time and no longer looks like the downtrodden student that he was. It would seem quite recently. Okay. It would seem quite weird sentence structure. Well, hello. I see you've gotten a good job for so many years, he began. I know. We haven't seen each other for a long time, and I'm sorry that happened. All this time, he wandered around the office and seemed to say this to himself. You, ahem, or rather most likely you, he said the last word with obvious malice, glancing at the order of lending on your jacket, can ask yourself, where did I disappear for so long? So, I answer in advance. I managed to escape from the Union. Let's omit the questions of how. In the early 80s, I contacted the country's largest group of dissidents who published banned literature in the USSR through samizdat. What for? So I then got the idea to write my own book, in which I could show the truth about the life of the USSR. It is understandable that there is such truth that Soviet censors would never have admitted to the press. But Chekists started hunting us, and when I tried to smuggle it to the West, so I had to flee the country. At first I lived in FRG. I even saw Pravdigoylubov himself. Never heard of that name. And then I left for France. By the way, here's my book. Can I leave an autograph right now if you wish? I can leave an autograph right now if you wish. He finished and threw a book on the table with an laconic title. Half the country jailed. No wonder it was banned, you said with a grin. But you wanted to see me, then why didn't you just come to our house for a cup of tea? Sergei thoughtfully looked at Gorbachev's portrait in his office for about a minute. It's my office, it's not his office. Crazy censorship structure. You can't really keep up with what's happening. This is all because of him, you know. In the West, my masterpiece has become a real bestseller, but it has not yet been published in the USSR. My citizenship was recently returned to me and I rushed here right away. Generally, I will say briefly, there is an orientation to make some serious dough. As young people now say, you have recently legalized joint ventures with foreigners here, and so the customs office is a complete mess. If you help me out and let me pass all this bureaucratic red tape, then we can get rich quite robustly. How, perhaps you ask? Yes, just like that. Okay, so he's wanting me to pass his book. Let's finish reading now. Okay, this, my dear, is the future of business. He answers and took that device from the box. In the West, they're already everywhere, but in the USA, they haven't thought of much of a miracle technology yet. Okay, so this is what, recording, VCR stuff. Game console for the TV. If everything goes like clockwork, then the profit will be simply cosmetic. We just need to fool these idiots from customs and take it to the country under the guise of a batch of computers, and then we will sell it to state agencies at exorbitant prices under the guise of new models. Of course, it won't hurt you with a share either. Do you agree? Okay, well, it's kind of corrupt. But fuck it, he's a friend. Why not? I agree. You yourself understand times are different now. Any income is useful. Sergei put the box back and shook your hand. From now on, you and I are partners, buddy. Sergei really did not deceive you. After a couple of calls to the customs, as well as several suitcases with rubles, a stable stream of gaming devices in the USSR improved, and you were the one who got a considerable percentage of the sales. So -5 to lower, +1 to private enterprise. Okay. Perestroika went according to the plan until the fateful 1989. At the end of the last year, the 19th Party Conference outlined the holding of elections to a new body of state power, the Congress of People's Deputies of the USSR. Nevertheless, contrary to your expectations, you lost the elections and were not included in the list of People's Deputies. Okay, fair enough, makes sense. At the March meeting of the Politburo, you said that all 7 party leaders, representatives of the administration and military circles, lost in the capital. In July 1989, during his arrival in the capital, Gorbachev demanded that you resign for health reasons from the post of First Secretary of the Capital City Planning Committee. After that, Mikhail Sergeyevich asked you if there are any worthy party members in capital who can take this important post. You recommended him a familiar intellectual. Boom. You advised Gorbachev to appoint your close friend and employee of the Institute of Physics, Andrei Gorky, known for his democratic slogans. A few days later, he replaced you in this position. After spending only a few months as head of the regional committee, he campaigned for democratization, market reforms, and the union and the protection of human rights, but soon died suddenly. Fyodor Vasilev, who replaced him, who taught at the Department of the Institute of Physics and was closely associated with Gorky, quickly got used to the new post and began to take control of the party funds sent from the centre. Balance of power in the ministries is changing. Okay, you experienced very hard such a sudden betrayal of the party, for the benefit of which you have worked all your life. However, in the early 1990s, you had a chance to return to politics. You put forward your candidacy for the elections of the People's Deputies of the Republic and won. Nevertheless, despite the fact that you ran for the CPSU, during your speech at the Congress of the People's Deputies, you declared your categorical disagreement with the party's position and announced your withdrawal from it, joining the moderate right wing of the United Opposition, formed during the Congress and united around itself all the opponents of the CPSU. After your triumphant speech, you were invited to the first Constituent Party Congress of the Opposition, at which the issue of nominating a single candidate for all Republican presidential elections was to be decided. Among the leaders of the UO are Boris Shutshabatsky and Evgeny Zhulnik. The first is an ardent nationalist and democrat, supporter of the sovereignty of the Republic, while the second is a socialist reformer and adherent of the Swedish model. Many opposition figures supported one of the candidates, and now you start your speech and propose to nominate the nationalist democrat. Boom. You proposed to nominate Boris Stutshabatsky, okay, as well, a well-known, yep, The Republic needs a person who can revive our national dignity, carry out democratic transformations, and direct our motherland to a bright future. You said the Congress was completely in solidarity with you and elected Stutshabatsky as the only opposition candidate. Stutshabatsky in turn offered the post of vice president to Zhulnik, to which the latter agreed. The balance of power in the ministries is changing. Here we go. Stutshabatsky and Zhulnik easily defeated the candidate from the CPSU. However, in time you began to become more and more disillusioned with the opposition politics. If in 1990 the country already looked sick, but the power was still strong, and then in 1991 was the year of crisis. The commodity deficit has reached its climax. Market reforms have just begun. but the planning system is no longer working. The Republic was on the verge of starvation. President Stachabatsky actually turned out to be a real populist and careerist, showing his true fascist guise. Empty words and explanations to restore the greatness of the Republic completely plunged the country into an abyss of anarchy. On the 18th of August, the day of your 40th birthday, you learned about the coup in Moscow. You no longer believed anyone and fell into complete apathy, fearing for the fate of your country after the defeat of the coup. You understood that this could not continue. You fully realized that the united opposition turned out to be an opposition, not to be an opposition at all, but a pitiful handful of populists rushing to the feeding trough. After the failure of the coup, you decided to found your own party. The party will truly pull the Republic out of the crisis. Found your party. Here we go. We are an hour in. So, I'm nearly done. Your brainchild, which includes all peoples close to you in terms of views. Soon your party will surely gain mass character. In December 1991, President Stachabatsky signed the Capital Republican Accords, thereby securing the collapse of the USSR. However, the very next day, mass rallies began throughout the Republic. People dissatisfied with the lack of food, lack of gas supply, unemployment and general chaos all around took up arms against the president, whom they themselves elected just over a year ago. The militia sent by the government to quell the protests refused to raise weapons against their own citizens. Frightened for their fate, Stachabatsky and Zulnik quickly realized that their time was to flee, otherwise it would be too late. Taking a couple of $100 million from the budget, they quickly fled the Republic, leaving the country even without any power. The Supreme Council of the Republic had to schedule new elections for April 1992. Lovely. Forward to a brighter future. Okay. So this is our map. This is our party unity of 43%. We have 55 administrative resources, but it says 0 in brackets. Party budget is 310. Lower class support is at 6%. Middle class support is at 25%. And upper class support is at 35%. Okay. Well, that's abysmal. Relations with Russia are 50. Relations with the USA are 50. 1.4 million. State budget. Okay, that's not going to be ticking over anytime soon, I don't think. Aggressiveness of the lower class is 41%. Aggressiveness of the middle class is at 21, and the upper class is at 9. Okay. So what year is it? I see. So we have to maybe try and rig this election to try and see what areas we take control of. Interesting. Uniparty is too low. There's nothing in the research. Please open the factions research to choose something to research. Physical map, administrations map. Oh. Oh, so we just keep clicking that. Physical map, administrative map, support map, aggressiveness map, and provincial governors. One down here. He's a Soviet. Okay. Holy shit. So what? Wow. Okay, this is... We may need to keep this episode as like an advert to try and bring people in. Who knows? Maybe we might have to ask Terra to come join us as a second pair of eyes and a second pair of hands, because this, I fear, may get quite deep. So at the hour mark, I think it's probably a good idea for me to say to anyone who's watched this far, thank you very much. Maybe give it a like, if you will, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one. And maybe draft in some helpers. If you would like to help, maybe leave a comment, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one.